I came home from a work trip to find my wife had changed the locks. I found someone better. She texted from my own couch. I took a deep breath, smiled, and replied, "Are you sure about that?" Then I walked away. 4 days later, she was screaming on the phone. Something felt off during our last video call. Vivian was in our living room, but the throw pillows were arranged differently. This small detail almost slipped by me. After 8 years of marriage, you start to notice these things. The coral pillow she always kept on her side of the couch was missing, replaced by one I had never seen before. When I pointed it out, she laughed it off, saying she needed a change. I was wrapping up a 2-week trip to Seattle, working on a big project with an even bigger opportunity. Vivian had been supportive when I left, encouraging me to knock their socks off. But as the days passed, her texts grew shorter, and our calls became increasingly rushed. She stopped asking about my day. When I shared good news about the project, her responses felt empty, rehearsed. "Just tired from work," she'd say. "You know how it gets." And I did know. I had helped her build her career from the ground up, but what she didn't realize was how much I had invested in her success. But we'll get to that later. The first real red flag appeared 3 days before my return. During our nightly call, I heard male laughter in the background. When I inquired about it, Vivian quickly claimed it was just the TV. However, our TV had a distinctive soundbar that I had installed myself. This was definitely someone else's voice. She ended the call soon after, saying she had a headache. I landed at 2 p.m. on Thursday, but there was no response to my "just landed" text. This was unusual since Vivian always replied within minutes. The Uber ride home felt longer than normal. I noticed more details that seemed off. Her location sharing was turned off on our family plan, and her Instagram stories showed our living room from angles she never used before. When my key wouldn't turn in the lock, I initially thought it was stuck. It took me a solid minute to realize that the lock was new. Standing there with my suitcase still in hand, I felt an odd sense of calm. After 8 years of marriage, my wife had changed the locks while I was away. That's when her text arrived. "I found someone better. Don't bother trying to come in. I've moved on." The timestamp showed she was typing this while watching me through our security camera from my own couch. In my house, I took a deep breath and typed, "Are you sure about that?" Then I walked away, wheeling my suitcase behind me. No drama, no pounding on the door, no scene, just 3 dots appearing and disappearing as she tried to respond. I checked into a nearby hotel and called my friend Damien. Within an hour, he pieced together what I had missed. Vivian had been seeing someone named Ezekiel, a client from her firm. They had been spotted at restaurants over the past month. But here's where it gets interesting. Ezekiel had a history of dating married women in positions like Vivian's, always when they were on the cusp of major career moves. While Damien talked, I logged into our shared cloud storage. Vivian wasn't tech savvy. She never changed the passwords I had set up. There they were, photos of them together in our house, dating back 3 weeks. But she had overlooked something crucial in her rush to replace me. My phone buzzed again. Vivian texted, "You're taking this better than I expected. No fighting for us." I guess I was correct about finding someone better. I smiled, recalling the document I had just discovered in our cloud drive. It was something Vivian had forgotten about from when I assisted her in setting up her investment portfolio last year. I took a screenshot and sent it to my lawyer, texting back, "Give me 4 days. Then we'll see who found something better." Her response was instant. "What's that supposed to mean?" I chose not to reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to some former colleagues. By midnight, I had gathered everything necessary to demonstrate to her just what she was on the verge of losing. Tomorrow, I would start putting my plans into action. For now, I relished the constant notifications on my phone as Vivian attempted to figure out what I knew. The best part? She had no idea that the comfortable life she was currently enjoying, the one she was sharing with him on my couch, was built on foundations she was about to undermine. Let her savor her better choice for now. In 4 days, she would discover that some decisions come with consequences she never anticipated. Update. First, thank you for all the support on my previous post. Your comments helped me maintain my focus. Here's what occurred in the last 24 hours. Remember that document I mentioned finding? It was the agreement Vivian signed when I assisted her with her investment portfolio. What she forgot was that I didn't just help her invest. I was the one who provided the majority of the capital. The agreement clearly stated that in the event of our separation, certain investments would need to be liquidated immediately. But that wasn't what sent her into a panic. Last night, Vivian's sister Sophia called me, crying. "Hunter, I can't stay quiet any longer. Ezekiel, he's done this before. 3 times. He targets women like Vivian, exploits their connections, then vanishes once he gets what he wants." I was already aware of Ezekiel's pattern, but Sophia had details I hadn't uncovered. She sent me screenshots of conversations between Vivian and Ezekiel from 2 months ago. They weren't just planning their affair. They were discussing business opportunities, using information I'd shared with Vivian about my company's upcoming projects. "There's more," Sophia continued. "Last week, Vivian asked me to hold on to some documents for her. She said it was just backup copies of work stuff. I looked at them today and, Hunter, she's been moving money around, significant amounts." I thanked Sophia and hung up, logging into our joint accounts. There it was. Vivian had been making large purchases, disguising them as household expenses. Art pieces, designer furniture, even a new car, all bought in the last month and hidden under miscellaneous transactions. The intriguing part? She had used our joint account for the down payments, but the main purchases were funded through her company expense account, the same one I had helped her establish years ago, where I was still listed as a financial advisor. It was time to make her understand precisely what she was risking. I typed out a text. "Just had an interesting chat with the board about those expense reports, especially the ones from last month. The couch looks great, by the way. Original receipts would be helpful." Her response arrived within seconds. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, and Ezekiel's history with Carson and Mills was quite enlightening. 3 settlements in 2 years. That's impressive." The typing indicator flickered several times before Vivian texted, "Hunter, we need to talk." I replied, "We will, after my meeting with the ethics committee tomorrow." Her next message revealed real anxiety. "What meeting?" "Hunter, please, let's discuss this." I chose not to respond. Instead, I forwarded Sophia's screenshots to my lawyer and drafted an email to the board outlining my concerns regarding specific financial irregularities. I wasn't sending it yet, just a precaution. Damien arrived at the hotel with takeout and a USB drive. "You won't believe what I found," he said, opening files on his laptop. It turned out that Ezekiel had been recording his conversations with Vivian, not just casual chats, but detailed discussions about upcoming projects and client information. "He's using her," Damien remarked, shaking his head. "And she's so wrapped up in it that she can't see what's ahead." My phone continued to buzz. Vivian had shifted from panic to bargaining. "Whatever you think you know, you're wrong. I can explain everything. Please don't do anything rash." The last message caught my eye. "The board doesn't need to know about any of this. We can figure something out." I smiled and sent my final message for the night. "Check your email in 10 minutes. Pay special attention to the attachment from March 15th. That date was significant, the day she signed the partnership agreement, which she clearly hadn't read thoroughly. It granted me considerable control over the company's major financial decisions. As I write this, Vivian is inundating my phone with messages. Ezekiel's name has vanished from her social media, and the designer couch she bought with company funds, the one she was proudly showing off in those photos, is now listed for sale online. Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting, not with the ethics committee. That was merely to unsettle her. The real meeting is with someone who stands to lose much more if Vivian's recent actions come to light. I'll provide another update once everything is set in motion. For now, I'm watching her slowly grasp that her better choice might jeopardize everything she's worked for. And I haven't even revealed my biggest card yet. Update 2. A quick update from the last 24 hours as events escalated faster than anticipated. Remember the meeting I mentioned? It wasn't solely about Vivian's expense reports. It encompassed something considerably larger. When I helped Vivian secure her position 5 years ago, I did more than just make introductions. I invested heavily under a holding company name she never thought to investigate. Back then, she was so thrilled about the opportunity that she barely skimmed the paperwork, signing wherever I pointed, too focused on her new corner office to notice the finer details. This morning, I entered the board meeting armed with every receipt, every recorded conversation, and every questionable transaction from the past 3 months. However, I didn't present any of it. Instead, I simply placed my shareholder voting rights on the table, The look on the chairman's face was priceless. "You're the silent partner from Morgan Holdings?" he asked, astonished. I nodded and added, "I'm concerned about some recent decisions made by certain members of the executive team." That's when my phone started buzzing. Olivia, my colleague who had been keeping tabs, texted, "Ezekiel just walked out of Vivian's office. He looks furious. She's crying." It turned out Ezekiel had his own meeting that morning with the legal team from his previous company. They were very interested in some confidential information that had somehow found its way to their competitors. This information perfectly matched the dates of his business dinners with Vivian. I stayed in the board meeting for exactly 47 minutes, long enough to voice my concerns about the company's direction and suggest a thorough audit of all executive expenses. It was just enough time for word to reach Vivian that her silent partner, the one who owned 12% of the company, was her soon-to-be ex-husband. The messages started pouring in. "Vivian, how long have you owned shares?" "Vivian, why didn't you tell me?" "Vivian, please can we talk about this?" "Vivian, you're going to destroy everything I've worked for." I replied to the last one, "No, you did that yourself. Check your email." The email contained 2 items: screenshots of her conversations with Ezekiel discussing confidential company information, and the partnership agreement she had signed 5 years ago, which included a specific clause about ethical violations. Next, Sophia called. "Ezekiel just dumped Vivian. He said she's too much of a liability. She's losing it, Hunter." She continued. She tried to access the executive accounts, but her credentials were already suspended. "How do you know about the accounts?" I asked. "Because I suggested the audit to the board last week after I saw those documents she asked me to hold." Sophia's voice was steady. "I love my sister, but what she did to you, and then asking me to help hide evidence." That's when my lawyer called. The board had reached a decision. They weren't firing Vivian. That would be too public and messy. Instead, they were offering her a choice: resign quietly or face a full investigation into her conduct. Either way, her stock options would be suspended pending review. I was about to head back to the hotel when Damien sent a text. "Dude, check the security cameras." I logged in to find Vivian in our house, frantically searching through files in the home office. This was the same office where, 3 years ago, I had installed a hidden safe behind the painting of our honeymoon in Bali. The safe where I kept copies of every document, every investment, and every piece of evidence showing how I'd helped build her career. She found the safe and tried every combination she could think of: our wedding date, her birthday, the day she got her promotion. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The combination was the date she signed the partnership agreement, the day she gained everything she's about to lose. My phone rang again. This time, it was the chairman. "Hunter, we need to talk about the future of the company." I glanced at the security feed one last time. Vivian had given up on the safe and was sitting at my desk, head in her hands. The designer couch visible in the background, the one she had bought to impress Ezekiel, already showed signs of wear. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I told the chairman, "and I have some ideas about restructuring the executive team. Tomorrow, Vivian will learn exactly how much power I've had all along, not just over her career, but over every decision she thought she made independently these past 5 years. The best part? I never had to raise my voice or make threats. I just had to let her own choices catch up with her. Final update coming soon. I still have 1 card left to play. Final update. It's been a month since my last update. I wanted to wait until everything was finalized before sharing how it all ended. Remember that last card I mentioned? It wasn't just about the company shares or the expense reports. It was about something far more calculated. Let's start with the couch. That $12,000 designer piece Vivian purchased to impress Ezekiel wasn't just financed with company money. She tapped into funds from a special account set up for an upcoming merger, the same merger Ezekiel was trying to obtain insider information about. But here's the clever part. I anticipated she'd do something like this. 5 years of marriage taught me that Vivian couldn't resist showcasing her lifestyle. So, 3 months before my Seattle trip, I started laying the groundwork. Every casual conversation about my company's projects and every detail about potential deals I shared over dinner was meticulously planned. Information that seemed valuable but was actually worthless. The real projects and actual deals were hidden behind NDAs that Vivian never knew existed. The morning after my last update, the board called an emergency meeting. They presented Vivian with everything: the unauthorized expenses, the leaked information, and the recorded conversations with Ezekiel. But the final blow came from Sophia. My sister-in-law walked into the boardroom with a laptop filled with emails between Vivian and Ezekiel. These emails discussed how they would use my insider information to profit from the merger. Emails dated before I even left for Seattle. I kept copies of everything, Sophia told them, her voice unwavering. Every time she asked me to hold documents and every conversation about using Hunter's position for their gain, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Vivian tried to defend herself, claiming she was manipulated by Ezekiel. That's when Olivia played her part, presenting evidence showing Ezekiel had been working with our biggest competitor all along. Every piece of valuable information Vivian leaked to him was carefully crafted misinformation that led our competitors down costly dead ends. The board's decision was unanimous. Vivian was terminated, her stock options voided, and her reputation in the industry shattered. But I wasn't finished. Remember that partnership agreement she signed, the one granting me control over major financial decisions? It contained another clause. Any ethical violations would trigger an immediate review of all personal assets acquired during the partnership. The house was purchased with a loan I had guaranteed. Her car was bought through a company lease I arranged. Even her treasured designer wardrobe was largely bought with company funds I helped her access. By the time my lawyers finished, Vivian was left with what she had brought into our marriage, her personal savings, and a stack of student loans I had quietly stopped paying. Ezekiel vanished the moment things soured, but not before my private investigator documented every meeting, transaction, and lie he told Vivian about his wealthy family and business empire. Last week I received a hand-delivered letter from Vivian. Inside was a house key, the same one she had made when she changed the locks. There was also a note: "I understand now. You didn't just help build my career, you designed its self-destruct sequence." She was correct. Every step up the corporate ladder, every connection she made, every opportunity she seized, I had carefully constructed it all with one purpose. It could all be dismantled the moment she betrayed my trust. The couch. It was just delivered to my new office, a reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's world. It's about letting them dismantle it themselves while thinking they're winning. Damien asked me yesterday if it was all worth it, if spending years setting up such an elaborate contingency plan was excessive. I looked around my new corner office, the one that used to be Vivian's, and smiled. The best revenge, I told him, is watching someone realize that their better choice was actually their biggest mistake. Yesterday, I signed the final paperwork. The merger went through. The real one, not the decoy Vivian and Ezekiel tried to exploit. The company's value tripled overnight. Vivian watched it unfold from her parents' guest room, where she's been staying since everything fell apart. Her last text to me was simple: "You planned this all along, didn't you?" I didn't respond. Some questions don't require answers. The designer couch now sits in my office, barely used, a $12,000 trophy of someone else's hubris. Sometimes the best things in life aren't free. They're just paid for by someone else's mistakes.